Hi, my name is Dave Van Dyke of the Buchanan Review and the Van Dyke Review, and I am so glad and so honored to be here with three friends from a band that has achieved quite a bit of success. They've been around for quite a while, and tonight, July 20th, 2017, they are actually doing their second to last concert of all time, not of the season, but of all time, right here in Buchanan. And what I'm going to ask them first to do is just introduce themselves, say where they're from, and where they are living now, first of all. We'll start here.
Paul Davies, they call me the General. I still live in Niles, and I've started out in Niles.
Okay?
I'm Ron Hamrick. I'm originally from Niles, like all of us, and I live in Burke, Virginia, right near Washington, D.C.
And your nickname is?
Ron.
Ron, okay. I'm Dave Willinga. They call me Big D because I'm the tall one of the band. And I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, and originally from Niles.
It's fantastic. Tell me real quick what you play in the sixth generation.
I'm the drummer.
Okay?
I'm a keyboardist.
And I play the bass guitar.
And we're missing who?
We're missing Gio. His actual name is Fred Hall, so we always refer to him as Gio fondly within the band, and he also plays keys.
So we got two keyboards, drums, and bass.
Yes.
Right.
Was it always like that?
No.
No, it was not. When we started out in 1966, we also had a guitar player and a singer. So there were 6 of us at that point.
Is that where you got the sixth from?
That is.
Yes.
6 of us playing our generation's music,
Right.
6th generation.
That's wonderful. You know, there are a slew of really terrible band names, of god-awful, terrible, in the toilet band names. And the sixth generation is not one. That's a good one. That's a great name, and no wonder it's been there for that long. Who met who first? How'd you meet?
Okay, so Paul and I were in a band called the Vampires back in probably 66, maybe 65.
Yeah.
So that goes back a long way. So 65, Paul and I were together. And then in actuality, we were at the Buchanan Teen Center. You'll see this Buchanan woven through the band.
Right, yeah.
And we were watching, and I don't remember if we were playing, we might have
I
played,
think we were playing.
but we ran into John Dale. John Dale was from Buchanan, lived up on Redbud Trail, and he became our only lead guitar player.
Okay.
And he retired. He only came back on the reunion for only 1 year. So
I saw you when you did that. So you two have always been the rhythm section of the band.
Yep.
we have been.
Yep.
That's fantastic. So how'd you get hooked up here, Ron?
Actually, I had been in another band at the same time they were. In fact, I played with your dad shortly.
Really?
Also, yes.
Do you recall which band you played in with John Van Dyke?
I honestly don't remember which one it is, but
There were so many.
yeah, there were so many
Yeah.
back in those days, hundreds of them literally in the Niles Buchanan area.
Mhm.
And anyhow, I was in a band called the Royal Coachman that was actually fairly successful around the area also. And we met up during 1966 is when we actually formed the sixth generation.
So you're talking 66. I know a little bit of the history because I looked you up on Wikipedia. And you disbanded in the early 70s?
Right.
Yeah, in
Why?
1970
And-
actually.
In 1970?
Yes.
And it was a cold winter night
Okay.
at the American Legion in Buchanan. Again, Buchanan comes
One
back
right up the
through.
road, isn't it?
One right up the road. And we knew it was our last show. We never said it was our last show. Paul was getting drafted. I was going to enlist. You have to remember the Vietnam War.
Mhm.
And I was already off in college.
And Ron at that time had already gone to college, and then Fred Holtz had come in as our keyboard player. That's how we ended up with 2 keyboardists. They're original members, but we've got 2.
So are you guys with vets then? Is that correct?
I am.
You're a veteran?
Yes.
Where did you serve?
I served in the Navy. I was
Thank
in
you
Pearl
for your
Harbor for 3
service.
years, and then in Italy for a year.
And they didn't want me. I had flat feet, so
Count your blessings, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you for your
Oh, you're welcome.
service.
Yeah,
Okay,
well.
I gotta ask about something. As some of our viewers know, I play in a band and I manage and book gigs all over the town, but you guys somehow managed to get the gig of all gigs These guys actually,
I think I know where you're going with this.
these guys were actually played at the most famous bar in the world, not in America. In America, the most famous bar would probably be the Fillmore East or the CBGB. These guys actually played at the Cavern. The Cavern in Liverpool. I've been there myself. I went there on my own. I went behind, I saw the poor sap that had to play Beatles songs over and over again, but I gotta hear it. How did this come about?
We have, I was in an international, I ran an international business for a lot of years and had a lot of connections, and Dave ended up connecting with another drummer actually over in England.
Mhm.
And one thing led to another, and I was talking to them over there one day, and they asked if we would like to consider coming over to do a tour over there. And the Cavern Club was on the list. There was actually another famous Beatles venue on the list also, it's called Latham Hall.
Okay.
And so we did a tour. We played like 10 or 12 gigs
Yeah,
over there,
something like that.
over a couple week
Over like
period.
12 days, I think we played 10
And
times.
it happened that we played at the Cavern on Ringo's birthday,
Isn't that
actually. So it
something?
was
So in the summertime.
It was
yes,
incredible.
It was July 7th. Yeah,
Yeah, it was incredible.
very exciting. That was 2013.
That is, I am olive drab with envy. That is very cool.
It was very cool.
It is
very-
very also recently, not back in the day, but recently I understand you had some chart success. Can you share with that?
We
with
did,
us?
yes. Last summer, we had an album that went to number 4 on Billboard. And the summer before that, we had a single called Living in a Small Town that I actually wrote about Niles that went to number 2 on Billboard.
On which chart did that go on?
It's on the Hot Singles chart, the regular Hot Singles chart. And the only thing that we were a little dismayed at, but you can't get dismayed at number 2 on Billboard, but number 1, the Rolling Stones chose that time to re-release the 50-year anniversary of Satisfaction.
Oh, really?
And by the way, I was ready to pack my drumsticks up and go, number 1, Satisfaction, Rolling Stones, number 2, Sixth Generation, what, we're done.
What else
It's
would
over.
we do? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's,
We're number 2.
yeah.
That's hard to top.
Dave, I wanted to just say one thing, we played at Latham Hall.
Mhm.
It was neater, I think almost, well, it was a great experience. But backstage in their, what they call a green room, it was a big room. It was bigger than this room, and they had all these old guys. Now, these old guys played in the 50s and 60s at Latham Hall. And this one old guy came up to us and he goes, "Did you ever hear about the time that John Lennon almost punched me in the nose?" and what do you say to that? You go, "Tell me more."
So what did you do?
They went on before the Beatles were going on. Beatles had played at this place 10 times. So
Yeah.
it was before the Beatles released their own music.
Right.
So they were keeping all of their own music and they were just doing covers.
Uh-huh.
Well, this guy's band did every song that was on the Beatles set list.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, and we played them better.
That is understandable. So you said you had some ties to Buchanan. Did you all go to Niles High School together?
Uh-huh.
Yes, we did. We were all in school at the same
Except
time.
John Dale, who went to Buchanan.
John Dale went to Buchanan.
Really? And John Dale,
He was our original guitar player.
okay, and where is he now?
He's retired. He actually lives in Alexandria, Virginia, not
Yeah.
too far from David.
Yeah.
How did you two wind up on the East Coast? And was it just coincidental that you happened to?
Absolutely coincidental.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I had no clue that Ron was there. I don't think I knew until General's daughter asked a question. It was Memorial Day 2010. I'll never forget it. She goes, "Why don't you get the band back together?" We had no answer. We had no answer for her. So we got the band back together.
So-
And come to find out, Ron was 45 minutes away.
So how did it come about that you got back together? Was it in 2010?
2010, yes.
Okay, 2010, so we're talking 30, 40 years later.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're talking 40 years later, who called who?
I started the ball rolling, and I think I called John, and I think John, did
John-
John know where you were?
John knew where I was, yes.
So I talked to Ron, he was just flying back from Japan or someplace in the Middle East.
China, actually.
Okay, and you were in Seattle, and he goes, Dave, I'm returning your call, I'm in Seattle right now, and so we started to chat. And then John and Ron and I went to dinner, and then Paul and I and Fred Bachman, our original singer, we got together in Kalamazoo, and then we all got together in Mishawaka and practiced for the first time in October of 2010.
What did it feel like?
I'll tell you, it was,
Felt really good.
it did feel good. You know, I mean, obviously, having not played together for 40 years, we had to knock a little rust off, but it did not take long at all. And it was literally like we'd never been off the stage together.
So let's
There
talk.
was unfinished business, and you being in
Yeah.
a band, we were not ready to stop in 1970.
I understand.
And there was unfinished business, and we've gotten back together, and with a vengeance, we've taken care of that business plus a lot more.
I'm so happy to hear that. Most of the times when bands call it quits, they hate each other, or some tragedy happens or something, but you guys seem to be in very
Yeah,
good
Just
spirits.
circumstances.
In very good
Yeah.
spirits about it, and I think that's fantastic, and I can only speak from personal experience, but I've had lots of friendships break up and heartaches and things like that over musical differences.
Mhm.
How do you know my dad?
Went to school with your dad, actually.
In
Went to
Niles High
school with
School?
your dad,
And
and
you
like I
played music
mentioned,
with
I played in a band with him for a short time.
And he was in Smoke, and I envied that band. I mean, then their drummer, Bruce Carr, was the best drummer to ever come out of Niles.
Yeah, and Bruce, I think he passed away
Yeah.
Tragically way young.
like
Yeah.
in 1980,
Something
81.
like that.
Yeah,
And
way
cancer.
young. But that was the band, and Jerry Smith and Paul Culp, and I mean, we sat and we'd watch those guys play, and we'd share stages with them. But they were a different, they were played different
style
kind
of
of
music,
band, different style.
I was playing a gig with my dad, and I met Bruce Carr's son, who's now a drummer himself.
Oh,
That's
wow.
cool.
Okay.
That's very cool.
Because I heard that he was just fantastic. So let's talk equipment. Do you guys have a sound man?
Yes, we do.
You do have
The
a sound
best in the
man?
business.
Who is it? Who do you have run your sound?
A guy named Brandon Hamrick.
It's actually my son.
Oh, okay.
And as it turns out, his undergraduate degree is in music.
Okay.
And so he has a lot of background in sound engineering and music production, those kinds of things. And actually, my daughter, Ashley, also has that same educational experience. So both of their undergraduate degrees are in the very thing that we do. So it worked out really, really well for us.
Fantastic. We couldn't have done what we do. And I even posted today that they make me sound so good.
So yeah, I'm calling for our tech heads. Can we go around, just say what you play, and most of the people that watch this won't have any idea what you're talking about. But I know that there are band guys that'll watch these videos. Like I said, that I played a Gibson songwriter and SG. Tell us real quickly what kind of setup you individually use.
Okay, I started out with a dual Schoenemann with two bottoms, playing a 67 Beatles violin Hofner.
All right.
And then that got a little old and it's kind of won't stay in tune anymore, so I have now a Fender Jazz.
Okay.
And I play Yamaha keyboards. I always play with two keyboards.
Okay.
And,
Why?
Because several reasons actually. First of all, it adds some dimension to the sound that comes out, but it also adds a lot of voices that I can use. So I will very often be playing like maybe a regular keyboard song along with orchestral stuff in the background. So.
Dave, how about your tubs? What do you play nowadays?
Nowadays a PDP, so Pacific Drum Set, which I love, been a great set of drums, Sabian cymbals.
Mhm.
I started out back in the day with Ludwig's because that's what Ringo played, with Zildjian cymbals.
Gotcha. So I always ask this when I talk to musicians. I exchange worst gig, best gig stories. And I want to start with the best gig first, though it's not, it probably won't be the best story. I'll give you a good example. The best gig I probably ever played was you know, we opened for a symphony. We opened for a symphony on the 4th of July at a beach with many thousands of people, and there were fireworks there. So that's the best gig. And the worst gig I ever had, there are quite a lot of them, but the worst gig I probably ever had was when I was playing at a restaurant and it caught on fire. I was playing at the Stray Dog in New
I
Buffalo.
remember that.
Yeah, and I was playing Brown Eyed Girl, and the manager walked up and said, "Quit." And we thought he just didn't like the song. It was because the place was on fire. So that's my worst gig. Either that or the time that I was playing at a beach and there was a mock drowning in the middle of it. One of those two. But the stories are great. So I'm just going to ask, and if you want to say the Cavern, that's cool. But if you have something else, I'm just going to get the best gig story.
Go ahead.
You know,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Gosh, there's so many,
Yeah, let's put him on the spot.
so many memories of good gigs that we've had. I'm not sure I can nail one down. Cavern, obviously. There was a place in Grand Rapids called the Place that where people would walk around. It was a huge Quonset hut hangar type thing. People would circle the place. And
Thousands of people.
that was fun.
That was back in the day.
That was back in the day. And recently, I'm not sure. Go ahead, guys.
I think the best ones that we've done is obviously the Cavern Club. Latham Hall that I mentioned a while
Yeah.
ago was a phenomenal place. The crowd was just alive.
We rocked them.
And it was a very, very fun night. And we have played on the National Mall in Washington DC. We played on the Tidal Basin. We have played over on the lakefront in Chicago to literally tens of thousands of people. And it is just really exciting when there is a crowd there and they are into it. We played at one up in Detroit, actually, where it was a huge crowd that you could just see forever.
Yeah.
And you know, they were up by the stage rocking, and like Paul said, we've had so many really, really good ones. The worst one from my perspective is, go back in the day again, I think it was in maybe '66, it was one of the early ones. We played at Decatur High School, and a tornado came through.
I forgot that.
That kind of ruined things, really.
Yeah. While the tornado drill was going on, they had everybody go out of the gym and into the hallway at the school. So Dave drug out his record player, which was our break-in.
That was our sound
And
system.
we started playing records to the kids while the tornado was raging outside.
That's an outstanding bad worst gig story. But those things, like, can you come up with one?
Well, yeah, worst gig that turned out to be a good gig, we were playing for the Teaks up at Ferris. And the beer was about 6 inches thick on the floor. I don't know how we didn't get electrocuted. And they were tearing it up. I mean, we were wondering if we were gonna get out of there with our lives. They were putting the beer on our equipment. We go, no,
Yeah.
not on the equipment. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm really sorry, man. And they actually helped us out afterwards, and they were the nicest guys, but that could have turned ugly quick.
They were party animals.
So you need to, let's go back to, and they've mentioned a lot of the big gigs. Let's go back to the time when I'm 16 years old and Dad gives me the car to load up with equipment to drive to Holland, Michigan. If you can imagine that drive, to spend a night in a hotel with these yum-yums and play 2 shows up in Holland.
Yeah.
Or we'd stay at the venue. They liked us enough, we'd stay at the venue.
Yes.
It was really
Those
our
were fun
parents.
times.
It was really our parents too that just trusted us.
It really encouraged you to do it.
Yeah, and then but we were all business. I have to say that also, that you go to these gigs, they always talk about the musicians getting the girls. It must be the ones that have roadies, because we never saw them. By the time we get stuff packed up, they're all home.
Yeah.
You know? But
Sure, Dave.
listen, I was always in the library. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. Remember, I'm the drummer. But it was being the house band up at 5 Mile Corner up in Dowagiac and playing on Wednesdays and Saturdays and Friday nights and
That's actually where I met my wife.
yeah.
47 years ago, I met my wife, we've been married 47 years.
Yeah.
But I met her at Skyliner up in
You
Dowagiac.
met her at a gig, were you playing?
Yeah, she was a groupie.
Yeah, 5 Mile Corner.
Isn't that
Yeah.
something?
Yes.
And so, but it was things like that where you learned the craft. And we were very fortunate, to do the Niles. We were YMCA first gig. We had 200 people at the show. We had 5 songs.
So what, just repeat them?
Just keep,
Keep repeating them and play the instrumental version of them?
Yeah, and then you'd
The
change the
album
order,
side?
you'd change the order a little bit, and you'd say slow song key of C. And you just go forever. And finally you go, well, we ever played, let's play Sam the Sham or whatever we were playing.
Yeah.
Trailers for sale. That was one of them, I remember that. But
Okay, so what can we expect without giving anything? Well, they're not, people aren't gonna see this until later, so you can tell us, after the show, what can we expect for tonight?
Old time rock and roll.
Okay,
We will do a 60s show with a lot of great music in it, and we will include some of our own releases that have been very popular around the world.
yeah.
that sounds fantastic.
Matter of fact, one of Ron's songs that we did, Touch the Moon, got a Grammy consideration last year. So it didn't get through the first vote, but at least it was up for consideration, which to us
That's
is
a big
huge.
deal.
What
It's
was it
really-
called again?
Touch the Moon.
Yeah, so Touch the Moon is in our set tonight. Living in a Small Town is in our set tonight.
That's fantastic. Are you guys, and you're gonna do about an hour and a half?
Yep,
Right.
solid music.
Take a break?
No, we don't have time for
We'll play
break.
through.
We got too much music to give.
That sounds fantastic. How have the fans changed between back then
Oh, and by the way, if you come to the show tonight and you're seeing this later, you had a great time. Go ahead.
Yeah. How
Actually,
have the fans changed
I don't-
between?
I don't think that our fans have changed, you know, we're all older obviously, but they love the music that we played and they say, you know, it brought back so many memories. We just love to hear those old songs. So our fans are basically the same, they like
And
to hear that music.
actually, we have a ton of fans that we had back
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
that are still now.
Still-
Obviously, we've gained a lot of fans all over the world since we've gotten back together. But we have a lot of loyal fans that have been with us since 1966, so it's
What
really
we call generators.
Really?
We call our fans the generators, and they're absolutely amazing. Matter of fact,
no better fans.
well, something we didn't talk about was at our first practice, no one knew about it. And
Yeah, we were just gonna do it a weekend with us,
and how many people ended up there on that Sunday?
30.
at least 30, yeah.
Yeah,
I
30.
don't know.
Or, yeah.
Nobody
30.
knows how they found out, because we all admit that we didn't say anything.
They just
But all
kept
of a
streaming
sudden-
in,
Yeah, we hadn't played in 40 years, and all of a sudden we have an audience.
and they're applauding.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're going,
Big time.
maybe,
They were, I mean, they were rocking mode by the
yeah,
time we.
maybe we could do this.
One thing I really wanted to ask about was the Michigan Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. How in the world did that come about? And just tell me all about it.
It originated, in order to be in the Michigan Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, first of all, you have to be a Michigan-based band, which
Right.
of course we are.
Mhm.
And the second criteria was you had to have a hit song, which we had a #1 hit back in 1967.
What was it?
Called This Is the Time.
Okay.
And it was, you know, it was played obviously on a lot of the radio stations around in southwest Michigan, but it was also picked up by the big stations over in Chicago and CKLW over in Windsor. And it even made it as far as Pittsburgh to the radio stations out there where Tommy James
Yep.
had been discovered. And as it turned out, it was, you know, it's really what started launching us into becoming more of a regional band than just a Niles-based thing. And so when we got back together in 2010, the executive director, I guess he is, of the Michigan Rock and Roll Hall of Fame contacted us, and then there was actually a voting process of all of the people in Michigan that could could vote for it, and we were inducted with more votes than anyone had ever seen. Yeah.
And probably still hold that record. And by the way, it was at the Buchanan American Legion.
That's right.
Yes, it was, yes.
When we were
Yeah.
inducted.
When we were inducted, it was done right over
And-
right up the road here.
And may I also say that then, I think a year or two later, This Is the Time that Ron and Fred Bachman co-wrote,
Mhm.
that was also inducted as a legendary song in the Michigan Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame.
That's fantastic.
Then when we got back together in 2010, actually, I wrote that song was called This Is the Time. When we got back together, I wrote a song called That Was the Time. And it was actually an autobiographical song about us. But it turned out to be pretty much of a baby boomer anthem, and it just swept the world. And I mean, it was like 2 months, and there were over 100,000 views on YouTube of the video.
And
So
now
that
we're
was-
up to what, one?
It's like 118 or something
Yeah,
like that.
it's
right now.
118,000 right now views
I've
on
seen
it.
it myself.
Yeah.
And back when we played, there wasn't a computer.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's right.
It was a building. I guess at Ferris, they got a building that was called a computer. And so, yeah, we've come a long way.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So,
Unless you guys have something to add, I want to thank each of you, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it very much, Dave.
Appreciate it.
Real, thank you so much. Yeah, we're really looking forward to tonight.
Me too.
And
Should be fun.
again, music has meant a lot to us. Encourage your kids to take music in school. Encourage the
Absolutely.
school to keep music. Our time in marching band and Ron's time in choir in high school, it meant the world to us and still does.
Absolutely.
We're here because of high school music.
Great. All right, for the Buchanan Review, I'm Dave Van Dyke. Have a nice night.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Just wanted to get that little bit.
Let me zoom in on that.